Most of us are taught to chase success, climb higher, earn more, prove ourselves. But what happens when we get there and it's not enough? Over the past year, I spoke with Jack Swift, Brett Wright, Bruno Del Ama, and Keith Lawrence, leaders who've all redefined what success means. Jack shares how facing fear during the financial crisis led him to listen to the inner voice. Brett shows how real leadership starts with listening and vulnerability. Bruno talks about stepping off the treadmill of constant achievement. And Keith reflects on designing the next chapter with purpose and resilience. This episode looks at what happens when we stop chasing and start paying attention to what actually matters, to what feels aligned, and to what we want the next chapter to look like.
What has defined me more than anything that I've been successful at is failures and things that didn't go well. We had launched a financial services company during the great financial crisis and raised money from friends and family. And I was really afraid that the whole thing was going to collapse. I was going to have to go back to all the people that trusted me and told them I'd lost their money. And it put a lot of pressure on my family. And I was not showing up as a good husband. I was not showing up as a good father to my young kids. And I was in a really dark place. And ultimately, deep learning for me on listening to let's call it higher self or something beyond what I had been taught from society, looking inward to find what I really needed to do to be happy and quote unquote successful in life.
I think that that's a common thing that happens to people. I think somebody referred to as when you wake up in the middle of the night and then your head is in the washing machine, like it just goes over and over and over again and you ruminate. What are your coping mechanisms?
Well, I think the first thing you highlight is a really important point, which is a lot of the fear is just in your head. And up to that point, I mean, I was an airborne ranger in the Army. It's not like I, wasn't dealing with fear. A lot of it was externally oriented. There's lots of things to be afraid of, but learning to manage my own nervous system in those situations where there was a lot of external fear is different than when you get into those loops in your head, the washing machine in the middle of the night. That type fear is different. And I think for me, what I've learned is most of the time I can bucket fear into three different buckets. We're talking now about fear of failure, but there's fear of failure, there's fear of success, and there's fear of judgment. And the first thing I ask myself is, which one of the three buckets am I in? And once I know, let's say it's fear of judgment. What are other people going to think about you if you make this career decision? Everybody's going to say that was the dumbest thing you could ever do, Jack. Why would you do that? Then I could say, okay, I'm in fear of judgment. Others are going to judge me for this career decision. Why am I in fear of judgment? And I just continue to ask whys until I get to the heart of it. Then it sort of dissolves that fear and makes it, something that's approachable. And then I could say, okay, once it's approachable and I'm no longer caught in these emotional loops, then I could say, okay, what is the learning here? Oh, I'm doing everything for external validation. Is that how I want to live? No, I don't want to live that way. I want to be attuned with what's happening inside of me. So that's the learning. And here's the cool thing. Once you do that, and you get practice at it, it becomes a much easier exercise.
I think that practice and habit creation is very important in that regards too, right? And so you essentially are through practice, you are rewiring your neural pathways so that when triggers happen, that you don't just go down that neural pathway highway that you're used to, which is the fear pathway, that you then go through the steps that you've outlined automatically. You've made some really bold moves in leaving Janice Henderson after growing this institutional business from 20 billion to 60 billion, which is tremendous, and then walking away from Tiffin after growing it to nearly $1 billion valuation, and then exiting early from an earnout because it no longer aligned with your values. Most people would have stayed for the more safe solution and the money, prestige, and that you could have just had by staying at Janus. What gave you the clarity or the conviction to step away from those roles?
And I think that it's important to recognize that there were times in my life where I was listening and to what the path wanted to offer me, what was unfolding for me. And there were times I wasn't. I think for me, when I left the corporate world, I left it behind because I got to a place where I didn't feel heart aligned with the work. And the things that have emerged for me, I would have never guessed were even possible. So I think stepping into that unknown, stepping into what could be, is it, once I've gotten a hang for it, it's really exciting. So last year, I got an opportunity to help build a company called Vantage Discovery. At 12 months old, we sold it to Shopify. It was an amazing exit for the founders. It's an amazing company. Now I'm involved with building a company called Grid Arrow that's rethinking global logistics and autonomous aircraft for cargo delivery. It's really, really fun. No way a guy from financial services should be doing that, right? But these are things that have emerged on my path because I was open, because I followed my heart, right?
I've gotten this a number of times from people where they were saying to me, "Well, you've had success, and so that's why, because you had success, now you have the privilege to be more introspective and to listen to your heart." What do you say to that when people say that to you?
I say listening to your heart will bring you more success. I can appreciate the perspective that wealth and success, monetary success in particular, brings a certain level of safety and security that allows the ego mind to calm down because you have enough money to be able to pay the bills. And I deeply appreciate that. And I feel very fortunate to be in that position, very grateful. So if I could take my 51-year-old self and go back and coach my 25-year-old self, I would say, you're going to be fine no matter what. If you can just hear one thing, just hear that it's going to be okay. You don't need all of that money. Now listen to your heart and see where it guides you. And it's going to go against a lot of societal norms.
So what recommendation would you have for somebody that is facing a potential pivot? And yeah, from your experience, what would you tell them that would be helpful?
Ooh, okay. So this is what I get really excited about because through our work at Leadership Nexus, I had some derivative of this conversation of community hundreds of times. And the first piece of advice I'd always give, which no one's going to listen to, because innately we're just not able to wire to do that way, is as human beings, we are wired to not like uncertainty.
Yes.
And you're moving into a period of uncertainty. There is always the dawn of a new day. There's always the next chapter. There's always something new. But the problem is you won't know. It could be a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. You just don't know. And that's going to be okay. You'll be fine. But the question is, first and foremost, just understand uncertainty is a human condition. And that's why you'll have good days, good weeks, etc. This is going to come hard for me to say. It took me a number of years to learn this as a Penn State football player. Is strength. Nevertheless, I want to see a weakness. And what I've kind of come to learn over time is now that's probably reversed. First, I want to connect with you. And second, I just want to share. I want to be vulnerable. I want to talk to you about what I do well. I'm also going to talk to you about what I don't do so well. I'll share with you my vulnerabilities in terms of, hey, I'm just not sure. The most powerful thing I can always sometimes say is, I don't know. Let's find out together. Instead of having the answers, I love the questions. And there's no better question in life for me than how might we? Because how is a question. Steve, let's think about this. How? It's ideation. Might is let's not throw out in binary discussions. In fact, we all in our innate selves have the nature of just gravitating towards people that are able to demonstrate vulnerability. And in doing so, and you don't have to have all the answers, and you list the power of the team and you respect what individuals do. The how might we? So it's a really, really powerful framework to start leadership off on the right foot, at least from where I sit and the experience I've had.
Let's finish the leadership one. How does that manifest itself now when you're working with people? Those lessons that you've early on learned from your coach.
First understand before being understood. Boy, isn't this the same patent advice we always give? And so if I had a playbook of three things I'd always want to do, is you only come into an organization, don't look to be heard, look to make sure others are heard. And make sure you spend time not in the confines of an office. It's great if you set up one-on-one, have regular team meetings, and you connect, but get outside the office and try to have a chance where you talk to someone. And this is going to be really important. Talk about what people feel, what they experience, right? What they value, experiences, values. These are deeper level questions. Go and tell me what you did on your resume. And if you get people talking like that, I think what you find is you start to transcend the level of how your deeper understanding.
So I had this experience when we wrote the business plan for the company. Our aim was to get to 2 billion in assets. And we did. We got to 2 billion in assets. And for a little amount of time, I was thrilled. I was like, this is amazing. We've done it. And soon enough, my mind was like, well, if we got to 3 billion, that would be nice. And we did. We got to 3 billion. And, I enjoyed that for 5 minutes. And then immediately my mind was like, well, really, if we got to 5 billion. And I caught myself doing that. It's like, well, what am I doing? Like, what is this thing? What does that even mean? And so there's a term called the hedonic treadmill. And that's what I was doing. The hedonic treadmill is there's no end to that journey. And so this is really important, Stephen. When you're thinking about success, what does it mean?
I think also what you said in the beginning, which I think is very powerful, is that everyone is different and everyone needs something different. Through the spiritual work that you're doing, I think that the way that can be reframed is that everyone wants to be seen. And once we start seeing people, then they actually respond to us because we are seeing them for who they are rather than for who we want them to be.
Yeah, I love that. I love that perspective of being seen. My experience, and I think we all have this experience, if we think about our lives, we all have had this teacher, right? Which could be a literal teacher or just somebody that we encounter. It could be a boss. It could be a mentor. But we have these experiences with somebody that we meet and they see something in us that is bigger than what we see in ourselves. Like they see a potential within us that is more than we see. And when they see that, we inevitably fill that space. We grow into that vision that they have of ourselves. And the power of that is immense. And so I think you're absolutely right. So give me something to work with. What's our vision? And it better be something that is meaningful, like it's going to catalyze, people, that it's going to be interesting. And then see me in the context of that vision. And what can that individual do? And see something bigger than they see in themselves. And then I think the next big ingredient, which is related to it, is trust. Just really trust them to do it. And people will show up. And that's the one thing that the opposite is also true. When you do not trust people, you can't stop work from home anymore because I don't believe you're working. When we start micromanaging to the point of like, we're doing that because we don't trust the individual, you're killing them. And so they're going to respond accordingly. It's almost like when you believe in something bigger, they're going to grow into it. When you believe in something smaller, you're actually going to keep them there and you're going to respond accordingly.
How did success change once you were having success in Global X, you launched those additional 6 products and you grew the company to a sizable player in the market? Was there a pivotal moment, or how did success evolve for you, or the definition of success evolve for you?
There was an interview that actually a German journalist did a few years ago with Elon Musk. He was the richest person at the world at that time. And he asked him about death. And Elon's response was, I think it will come as a relief. And, even if it was a throwaway comment, even if it was, it really shows the state of mind of somebody in the midst of ultimate success. He's literally the richest person of 7-8 billion people. He's the one that's the richest person. Our culture would be the most successful person. But is he really? And so it was really helpful for me to catch myself in that journey and basically tell myself, listen, we've done it. We got to 2 billion. This is amazing. Sure, that doesn't mean the company's not going to have objectives and we're going to aim for, a lot of things that we want to disrupt. But, how do we think about success? And I think the old paradigm of success is really a hedonic treadmill that has no endpoint and can lead one to think that maybe death will come as a relief. And so that's not the train that I'm on.
Yeah. It's so true for any of those, right? So how many social media likes people get, or how many YouTube followers people get, or how much money you get, or what title you have. These are all examples of exactly that, and there's always more, and so you never get satisfaction, because those are the wrong, I would argue, those are the wrong goals to have, because it's really external validation versus real internal validation.
The people that their life is basically their identity is related to their work, when that work goes away, many of them get lost. And for a whole bunch of reasons, to your point. One is a sense of purpose for them. It's a sense of importance, provides an opportunity to grow and learn, make a difference, make some money. What I do is, while they're still working, we start figuring out, clean sheet of paper, what would the next chapter look like for you? And many of them have no clue, because they've done the same thing, for many years. And that takes some going out, experimenting, trying things. Also, where is there a need on the planet for what you might want to do? As you well know, the world we are living in today is exponentially changing, particularly because of the impact of AI. So you got to do some research around, what would you love to do? Does it play to your strengths? But then importantly, is there going to be a need on the planet that's going to allow you to make a difference, to your point, repurpose, re-identify yourself, but also be able to support your family?
It's this whole notion that you talk about and I talk about living intentionally.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't. They're driven by external forces. And one of the key things I also work with my executives on is that if they don't decide on how to spend their time, somebody else will, right? And I think that's true for the pivot as well.
You bet. And if you, just to your point, wander through life just reacting to the world around you, as Stephen Covey once put it, you're going to end up down the road 15, 20 years later and realize your ladder was against the wrong wall. It wasn't against your wall, what you wanted to do. And life is pretty short. So again, a lot of people don't do life plans for a whole bunch of reasons. One is they don't know the answers to the questions. That's okay. They're scared about what the outcomes might be. So that this whole fear and I'm too busy and all the excuses gets in the way, as opposed to let's just take an hour, all right, and start jotting down your thoughts and dreams. Because once you take these unconscious thoughts, these innate gut things that are going on inside of you, and you start putting them down on a piece of paper, your mind then becomes conscious, and it is magical, I believe. Okay. And I'm sure there's some science behind it. It starts bringing people across your paths, articles, things of that nature, to help you provide some answers to what you're actually wrestling with.
I think also what's important, and this is true not only for life planning, but for any kind of relationship that we have, is that we need to A, self-advocate, but B, also to take responsibility for our own happiness.
Yes.
And talk to me about that, and how you work with your clients on that, and how difficult maybe it is sometimes for people to do that.
Yeah, maybe this is one that's going to trigger a conversation between the two of us. I kind of pivot away from the world with happiness. There's a lot of people in this day and age that feel like I'm just going to cruise along and everything's going to be perfect. Well, lo and behold, the older we get, the challenges are going to mount up. People are going to get sick. You're going to lose loved ones, etc. And so they're like, well, I'm not happy. Well, welcome to life. I talk about more around the whole concept of fulfillment, resiliency, to be able to enjoy all the great times you're going to have, but to be able to quickly bounce back, to be resilient from the challenging times that you might face. Okay. There are definite secrets to help you figure out what that might be. Being well, all the dimensions of that, mental, physical, spiritual, etc. Practicing the habits that we all know we should be doing to stay well. Most people don't. Part of it is also setting boundaries too in this next phase. To your point earlier, I mean, this sandwich generation of I'm caring for my elders. I have my own kids I'm responsible for. People feel pressed and they have a lot of demands put around them. And part of it is they're not setting boundaries. It is okay. And it's important from a sense of fulfillment to be able to say, to your elderly parents, whatever, I can't visit you every day, or you need to get help. I can't be there every day. Or to your kids, I mean, you need to get a job. I'm not going to pay for 100% of your college because I'm trying to fund my retirement at the same time.
You started talking about resilience, and I would like to talk about that, how resilience can be shaped maybe by redefining the story that you're telling yourself. So maybe share a time that you had to choose to refine or redefine something in face of an adversity that taught you how to build this resilience that you talk about.
I've had to reinvent my thinking on that. As challenges come up, these are opportunities to learn and grow and become a better person. Most people don't think about it this way. So again, if you go through, loss of a dad, in my mind, I lost my father 22 years ago. Huge, huge loss. Him and I were very close. He had struggled for many years with his health, but I've learned from that. And I doubled down on being there for my mom, who just turned 97 and is doing a phenomenal job. So I took that challenge and said, hey, I need to be there for my mom and being able to provide her the support and love that she needed. So that would be one. Going through health challenges, right? I mean, we're all going to face them. I've faced them personally. My wife has to face them. Family members have faced them. And again, I use those as an opportunity to tap into all of the strengths that I have, networking, growing, learning, having a plan, right, for all of those challenges.
Resilience, I believe, happens when you lean into your fears, when you lean into the issues that you have, rather than trying to run away from them or just ignore them, because they're going to continue to fester inside of you and they're going to nag at you. Maybe not during the day, but when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you start ruminating, these are the things that are going to pop up. Yeah. And I think that one of the things that holds most people back is their finances. And it's that they think that they should have one more big gig before they can actually live their dream. And as you said, later on, you'll actually regret it, and you actually would be able to do that. And most of the people that are going through it, they realize that they actually don't need all those things that they think that they need.
Very true. I mean, most of the people I work with, one of the things I mentioned them, they're going to run out of meaning before they run out of money because they focused on getting that next pick the number, right? And then they sacrifice their health or their friends or their family. I mean, you only have time with these, young kids at yours, whatever age they're at. One of the favorite things I had is, the days may feel long, but the years are short. So take advantage of them while you can.
Yeah, it's our most valuable commodity is not money, it's time.